Hi and welcome to the Pursuit of Truth. So I was just watching the news about Alex Jones. I think what was it called Infowars. Um, he's been charged at 1 million or 1 billion. I can't remember how much it is now. To do with the conspiracy of Sandy Hook. I don't think I saw many of his videos. I've seen videos about Sandy Hook and other events. The one I listened to a lot at the beginning of Pursuit of Truth was Ollie Damagard. His ones were quite interesting, the way he would pinpoint things that reoccur in different events. But the problem is with this, I don't really know much about Alex Jones. I know his support of Donald Trump. I didn't watch his videos. I don't think I liked the way he went about it. And they talked about harassment, this, that, and the other, which is a whole different kettle of fish. Of course, like the news we're talking about, this is it is verging on the freedom of speech part of things. I suppose you are free to, well, in the system that we live within. There are rules and regulations and what we can and can't say, but when it comes to free speech, it's a little bit more unclear. Not that I'm trying to defend Alex Jones. I don't know anything about him. I'm just talking about this idea of what I don't think is questioning shouldn't be a crime, in the sense that people may come across, different questions, on YouTube especially, or Facebook, where they will have these videos by Ollie Damagard or Alex Jones or Russell Brand or whoever, and questioning the world that we live within, events that are taking place, and giving alternatives that are out there but are not on mainstream media. And the thing is, like, you only get to the truth by questioning. And the problem is relying on one media source like BBC or CNN or whatever, CBS News, they're not. I mean, yes, it's about truth. They're reporting, but they're not in it to try and uncover the real truths of things. You won't see stuff, that's covered in Russell Brand or etc. on mainstream media. Questioning even the stuff that I talk about, questioning our system and whether it's right, and money and all that, and division and all those things that I say are like universal truths, actual truths, that we're all human beings, and we're following a system of 1,000 years old, and we've divided ourselves up, and it doesn't benefit humanity, and money doesn't benefit humanity, all those things. You won't hear news media talking about any of those things. And why? Because it's not, they're like, I suppose they're still inside the system bubble. They haven't sort of awoken, as it were, to, wait a minute, why are we doing the things that we're doing the way we are? And is this the only way? And I guess they're part of the machine. They're part of the system. They were designed within the system for the system. So they're never going to look outside it, as it were. Sounds a bit Philip K. Dick, that. But yeah, the thing I was interested about is that it shouldn't be a crime to question. Yeah, you may be wrong. I'm sure in the beginning of my pursuits of truth, I've gone through different things. Now, I don't center too much on what the system called conspiracies, although it's a CIA loaded term. And of course, whenever anyone uses that word, then instantly you don't believe it. Is more to do with the truths and humanity and etc. But they've always interested me. When I was a kid, I used to watch Strange But True, and interest in UFOs and ghosts and moon landing being faked and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I am interested in it. I mean, I wouldn't ridicule someone of it. I know I have seen these things where it have been suggested that crisis actors are involved, and I can see, when Ollie Damagard mentions these things, they do seem credible when he's listing out the things that he's listing with the evidence. I think if you're giving your view and you're giving your evidence, then that's freedom of speech. I suppose the problem is if it is real, if these events are real, then I guess of course it would be insensitive to those people, and that's the problem. But the problem is what if they're not real, and obviously those people are going to pretend to be outraged and etc. because they're part of it. But like I've always said throughout the pursuit of truth, the easiest way to do this wouldn't be to cast actors and fake it all, because there's too much messiness in that. It would be much easier just to let it happen, because CIA, FBI, MI5, MI6, whatever, they keep track, and you often hear with these terrorists afterwards that they say these were known to the authorities. So the easier way would be just to let it happen. And like with infiltration during different movements during the 70s and 80s of FBI and etc. Lots of movies about that these days. We know that agents used to get involved in organizations to swerve them to certain directions or help things along or not, as it were. So that'd be a lot easier if you wanted, rather than having actors and paying people and hoping they'd be silent and all this kind of stuff. You just allow it to happen. You just close your eyes, or you get someone involved who can swerve them to, this is where you can buy this and this is where you can do this, and help them do that. And then you end up, the person who does it thinks they did it. Well, they did, but they don't know they were helped or not helped, or not given away, or not reported. So that to me would be the easiest way of if governments or the other agencies outside the government were involved in these things for whatever reason. I don't know, I suppose to keep us in fear or whatever. I mean, I don't know. What it does, it interests me, because when I see these other points of view, if you just watch TV and you just blindly believe in it, then obviously you're not going to question anything. And that's not a great state to be in. You should always be able to question things, and you shouldn't always believe the first thing you're told. Unfortunately, that's the problem with humanity. Like if there's an argument between two people and there's a third person involved, and the first person tells the lie to that other person, then the third person comes along and says, no, he told a lie. You won't believe, because you always believe the first thing you're told. And it's very difficult for your brain to then undo it unless there's a lot of evidence. We see that in our ordinary lives. So obviously the media and government have a great power over controlling the information. We know in war that's very important, and how you can control people, which is what government's all about, governing. And therefore information is very important, and whoever tells you it first, you obviously believe it. But the problem is then when you try and question it, and even if, like I was talking about before, if the government's arranged these things, you are going to have those people who know about it. But of course, whenever anyone comes out and says this happened, like say Buzz Aldrin makes a mistake about the moon landing, everyone says, well, it's because he's old, or oh, he's just joking, or it's just not reported. So there's always a way you could keep these things secret, because whistleblowing and people going against the narrative, the mainstream, or the first thing that you're told, are often not believed and are often ridiculed. So this is a very murky thing. And with his particular case, I'm not talking about that because I don't know anything about it, so I can't offer anything. But what I'm talking about is we should be able to question, but obviously we have to question within sensitivity and harassing and this, that and the other, and also always remembering that we don't know the truth because we weren't there, we weren't involved, so we're just guessing in a way. And I suppose maybe that's why there is a danger in doing that, and danger in people watching these things. I've watched Ollie Damagard stuff, and he's given evidence, and it's made me question things and think, wow, was I told the truth? But what if he was lying and now he's misled me? But of course, that's the problem with humans in general, whether it's the mainstream media, whether it's Sky News, BBC News, CBS, whether it's the president, the prime minister, Ollie Damagard, whoever else, ordinary human beings. Every single human being has the ability, unfortunately, I don't know whether it's whether we're taught it through growing up, the ability to lie. And of course, when there's the ability for someone to lie, those people who lie don't often tell the truth. Then no one's going to turn around and say, yeah, you're right, it was a conspiracy, we didn't go to the moon. No one's going to say like, oh yeah, officer, I did it. Is another one of those things of humanity, that people will often keep the lie because of respect and dignity and pride and all that kind of stuff. And the fact that when you're found out to be a liar, what happens to you? So yeah, it's a very difficult one, that surf of sensitivity and freedom of speech and this and the other. But the real problem is we live within a world, whether you believe these things or not, whether they're true or not, that doesn't really matter. What matters is that unfortunately we live in a place that we can't believe each other because we have the ability to lie. maybe we need to look at how do we get rid of that? How do we stop each other? How do we stop ourselves or stop teaching ourselves how to lie? Because maybe it's not something that we're born with. Maybe it's something we're taught, we learn. No one goes around saying, no, but this is class number 1, how to lie. It's not, it's more nuanced than that. It's these little things, the way we talk to each other, that maybe the lies that we tell as parents to our children, or, when they're little, thinking, oh, it's nothing, it's just a little lie, it's to keep them safe. Maybe that's how it's born. It could be something very simple like that. Maybe it's media, the idea of films and drama and books, because they are, an actor is a liar. He's pretending to be someone he's not. A book is a fiction. It's something that's not real. So maybe it's all these things. Unfortunately, probably don't want to get rid of some of these things because we enjoy those things. But that's the problem. We need to live within a system, in a world, a place where we can believe each other, and we don't need to waste time finding the truth. But unfortunately, that shows that we don't live within that place. The place that we live within now is something where we always have to question, because we don't know whether they're telling the truth, because we know that people in power, people with money, people, world leaders, etc., have an ability to lie. Like George W. Bush and Tony Blair with the weapons of mass destruction, 45 minutes, and etc. There's lots of that. We know in war, we've been watching in the modern age this war in Russia and Ukraine. In Ukraine, with Russia and Ukraine and the West, and how the journalists will say that this side will say this and this side will say that, but there are often preface that, in war, these numbers may not be right, because obviously Russia won't want to say how many people are really dying because they're worried about how it seems, and the Ukrainians won't want to say how many people are dying there, or maybe they want to exaggerate it because they want to make more emotion towards them. So we know that it was that famous maxim that in war the first casualty is the truth. That's the same with humanity. When you're born, the first casualty for humanity is that truth is not guaranteed, and it is your job as an individual to try and find it, not just to believe, just because you read it in a newspaper, just because you see it on TV. We've all seen 1984. We all know in our own lives where we've seen world leaders, Nixon, whoever it is, lie to us. We've all seen things where it's been proven that we know humans do lie. We know people in power and etc. do have that ability to lie, and have done it for their own efforts, for money, for power, for governance, and etc. So questioning should never be against the law. That's part of humanity. That's how we find the truth. So that's my 2 pence on it. This isn't about Alex Jones, because I haven't watched his stuff. I don't know what he said, so I'm not supporting him. I just wanted to talk about the idea of, it's difficult, isn't it? Because I'm thinking about these parents. I saw the parents crying at the Sandy Hook trial with Alex Jones. And if it's real, I know I'm saying if it's real, but they're crying, and imagine how it would feel if it was you or me, and it did happen, and I'm having to try and say, yeah, it did happen. I was there. My child is no longer here anymore. I suppose the thing is, when we talk about conspiracy theories, we don't always think about these things, because there are other human beings that are feeling things. Of course, they could be acting, or they could be real. And the problem is how do we know? Maybe the question is, why do we care so much? Because it doesn't really affect us per se, but the media puts it in front of us, so we have to have a reaction. We have to try and find those truths. Whereas really we should be concentrating on the world that we live in and trying to make it better for each of us. Getting rid of division, getting rid of countries, getting rid of money, and working out a way that we can all work together, all have the best existence, the one existence that we have, by having better infrastructure for the whole place that we found ourselves on, which everything's been given freely to us, and find a way of using all those resources, using all that energy for the benefit of humanity. Oh, it sounds so simple, doesn't it? Why haven't we done it yet? Take care. Well, maybe because we've been talking about all these other things. Take care, take it, God bless, and peace.